Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome into the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Thursday, December 16th. More importantly than that, it is the Thursday of Week 15, the first week of the fantasy football playoffs for the vast majority of us. It kicks off tonight with the Chargers and with the Chiefs, and hopefully with a healthy Austin Eckler. But that's a discussion for about, 2 minutes or so from now. Michael Beller here with you. We're going to talk through all of our Week 15 first-round fantasy playoff games. With me, as always, Jake Seeley. Jake, we're almost there, man. How you feeling?
I'm waiting for January so I can sleep a little bit. No, but sidebar, I just, right off the top, in case anybody doesn't know, because I'm seeing a lot of this, and it's not just the COVID situation, which we had a little bit kind of last year too, but this goes back for years and years and years of advice. I just tweeted this out this morning. A PSA, playoffs are here. Your bench should have a backup quarterback. It should have a backup tight end. I don't care if your quarterback is Josh Allen. You don't want to be scrambling and picking up Mike Glennon or Zach Wilson for your championship game, especially with the COVID situation going on. Same thing at tight end. You don't want to have to be looking for Jeff Swains of the world. So outside of those, all high-end backups, like we don't need fill-ins, but high-end backups, so don't make that your entire bench. But make sure you have a backup quarterback and a backup tight end before it's too late.
Absolutely. Maybe even a defense if you want to just look ahead to Week 16 and see.
I said that too. I don't want to confuse anybody because I said that too, and somebody was like, "Oh, so should I drop Madison?" I'm like, "No, that's not what I said." How did you glean dropping Madison from what I just said? By the way, shout out Brandon. That Cowboy shit match last night was one of the best in a long time. That's right. Nobody else knows what we're talking about except for us.
I can assume that it's some WWE stuff, but I don't know what it actually means.
AEW. Hey, see, Jiggles, the shirt. Get your backups. My bench better than your starters. This is RotoWare.
Even on the wrestling organization that it's involved with. Yes, you are. It's a good look. My bench, your starters, especially if your bench has backup QB.
That's one of the OGs from RotoWare.
Defense. Yeah, it is. I feel like it's still on the front of the page there. You're not dropping Alexander Madison, but that wide receiver 5 that you've had just in case because of bye weeks and stuff. T.Y. Hilton, perfect example. Get rid of him. You don't need him anymore. Brandon Funston, we absolutely, without question, need you today, tomorrow, and into the future. How you doing today?
I am doing good. I was just going to add to Jake's thing because I made this stupid mistake last week. Put your most questionable people in your flex spot. Don't pigeonhole them into their actual roster position. I actually had to start Pat Freiermuth and T.J. Hawkinson last week initially. Fun. And I made the mistake of not even thinking about it and having Hawkinson in at tight end. So Freiermuth played on Thursday night. And then I was forced to replace on Sunday with a tight end instead of just having the whole entire flex world at my fingertips. So, rookie mistake. It was one of the dumbest things I've done all year.
Yeah, not only your questionable guys, but anyone who plays on Thursday and then anyone who plays on Saturday. Get them in those designated spots.
Do not put Thursday players in flex.
Yes, never, ever put those Thursday players.
Even if it's like I'm starting
spot.
A running back and they're not I'm not benching my top 2. No, still start the guy in the running back position because somebody might get COVID. By the way, real quick thing, I want to ask you guys this because I had this discussion yesterday with Jeff, and I want to see if you guys agree. If the players are within 10 spots-ish, so they're close in rankings, we're all just playing guys we know are playing at this point, right? Like, so let me give you an example. Mike Williams tonight, or you could wait on CeeDee Lamb, or not that anybody has that decision, but as an example, is like you would just take Mike Williams because you know he's playing versus finding out Sunday that CeeDee Lamb has COVID at this point. Like, wouldn't you just, because what's going on right now, wouldn't you just kind of take the players you know are playing before waiting until Sunday night, Monday Night Football?
Your example is a little bit like, throw somebody out from like Terry McLaurin instead of CeeDee Lamb. That would have been better because COVID's going crazy in Washington right now. You're not hearing a whole lot about it in Dallas.
I was just trying to think of somebody in tonight's game. Okay, so Darrell Williams versus waiting and finding out, like
Myles Gaskin
sitting.
Yeah.
No.
Darrell Williams or Sony Michel. How about that?
No. I don't want. No. You're missing the point. I'm saying somebody who doesn't even have a question mark. We know Darrell Williams is playing tonight. If you wait till Sunday for somebody that's close to Darrell, so like give you an example. Okay, so Darrell Williams in my rankings 38. Okay, here you go. Chuba Hubbard's 36.
Yeah.
I would play Darrell Williams versus waiting for Hubbard, finding out Carolina all of a sudden has a COVID outbreak on Sunday. That's my point.
If it's
That's
that
fair,
close,
yeah.
perhaps. If it's a wider gap than that, I wouldn't like. I'm not trying to guess where it's going next. I would just
it's
still
like
trust
it's like
my
half
players.
half tier or less.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, 6 to 10 players
Yeah.
at most.
I don't
Yeah.
really want to play Chuba Hubbard anyways, which I know is very, very far
I
from
know.
the
We
point
were
of what
getting
you're
too
saying.
focused on the
I know that is incredibly not what you're
Into the
saying, but
weeds.
just for the record, we've got 16 games, guys. We are done with buys. We have 16 games, so we're going to move fast. We're going to move fast through these games because we do have all of them on our show sheet here. But let's be quick about it. And we just got them in chronological order. So if you're listening to this on Friday or Saturday, maybe skip ahead about 90 seconds because we've got Chiefs Chargers up here first. Chiefs 3.5-point favorites in this game against the Chargers. 52 is the total on this game. You guys, hopefully we're getting Austin Eckler in this one. 30-24 win for the Chargers the first time around. That was way back in week 3. This is a pretty cut and dried situation with who we start on these two teams. Is there anything, Jake, that you look at with a question mark going into this one?
Only if we get pregame that Austin Eckler's not playing. And I mean, not playing. And then Jackson over Kelly, but I'm not staking my playoff lives on it because we saw this last year. It could be anybody. And towards the end of the year, it was Kalen Balazs. So let's be real about what that backfield
God, I
could be.
forgot about that.
If Austin Eckler is playing, look, what was it, week 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there where it was a similar situation. Would he have 20 touches in that game?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, yes, it's the ankle. Yes, he could come out early, but I am not sitting Austin Eckler if he's playing this game outside of maybe a top 15 other option, and I don't think most people have that choice. You have to ride and die with it, and if it goes sideways, at least you know the rest of your lineup has to be more upside than safe.
Yeah, totally with you there. I've seen some banter about maybe you sit Austin Eckler even if he plays because is he going to get his full like no way. I think really the only risk related to Eckler would be leaving the game early because he aggravates the ankle,
right.
not like ceding half of what he would usually have to the Kelly and Jackson combination. I'm speculating, but
his workload hasn't even been that high recently.
Yeah, I just don't think that's realistic, especially with the Chargers could take over first place if they win this game.
This is like sitting Dalvin Cook last week. It was a Thursday night game. He was questionable. But if he's playing, you're playing him, and that was very, that showed you why last week is like you just.
Well, I think that's a little bit different because they were bringing him back versus him playing off an injury
going into it.
Happened. So a little bit, but I agree. The point being is you're not benching Austin Eckler.
No way. We are in unanimous agreement on that, and we think anyone else out there who is counseling you in another way, not counseling you the right way. Saturday, we have 2 games, so now if you're listening to this on Saturday in the afternoon or on Sunday, maybe fast forward another couple of minutes because, at least as of right now, Raiders and Browns is happening on Saturday. It seems as though there's no mechanism this season for pushing the games back the way that we did last season. This opened up as Browns minus, 4.5 or 5. And now because of the Browns COVID situation, it has swung all the way over to Raiders minus 1.5. And that total of 38.5 is, I believe, the lowest of the season. It's lower than even a game we're going to talk about that features maybe the 2 worst teams in the NFL in a little bit here. But, I mean, is this Nick Chubb, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs, and no one in this game, Funston?
Yeah, on the Browns side, do you guys remember when David Carr was the Houston – David was the Houston quarterback. He was like the number 1 overall pick, and he set a record for getting sacked. And then they had a commercial where he was there with the center, and there was like nobody else on the offensive side. It was just him in the center, and it was like a kind of a joke on how easy it was for him to get sacked or whatever. It's kind of what I
remember the commercial.
Okay, well, there was this commercial, and they had no offensive linemen except for the center. And that's kind of where Cleveland's at right now. They have literally 4 offensive linemen that could miss this game. Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield, Austin Hooper. I mean, it's I'm imagining that same commercial, but with Nick Chubb running Wildcat instead of there actually being a quarterback there. But
God, should they do Wildcat?
Look, if Nick Chubb, you're playing him. If all those guys are out, I'm dropping him down, but I'm not dropping him out of the RB2 discussion. Yeah. So I think
I wouldn't even drop him out of the top 10.
I would for sure.
This is the same conversation for Najee Harris. Everybody at the beginning of the season, the offensive line sucks for the Steelers, and it's still not that good. And all the time, look at the Giants. Giants offense and offensive line sucks, and Saquon Barkley has still been top 15, 16, and then was a top 7 running back last week. That's why I wouldn't drop him outside the top 10.
I don't know. Four backups on the offensive line, and like No tie. I mean, this game could get ugly. It could get
How many
sideways.
touches does Nick Chubb get in a close game? If this game ends up being like the Raiders 1.5, it plays to that script. I mean, does Nick Chubb get the ball 25
if it's
times?
a close game, this is also, if you're looking at Vegas, I mean, this is what, 20-18? So
Yeah.
a close game could still be 13 touches. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the downside to it. But that's really what it comes down to is just there's no way I'm kicking him. And if Funston, you 100% could be right. That's the floor. Like, there is a risk. I mean, Saquon Barkley, they go back to him. His 2 games, a lot of it had to do with he still had 17 or 18 touches in those 2 games just to get to RB16. Without that touchdown last week, probably finishes right around RB16. So I'm saying, like, you're not wrong to say, but I think with that floor being a high-end RB2, that I would still play him as a top 10 running back. That's kind of where I'm going with this, is that he still could finish top 5. The floor is RB20, so I'm just going to kind of cut down in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying I have him ranked RB13 right now. If it's as bad, I could drop him down to 2, 3, 4 more spots. Playoff teams might have this first world kind of problem where you do actually have a legitimate choice where there are, 2 to 3 other options you have on your roster that might be ranked higher than where I have them at 15, 16, or whatever. And I'm just saying, if you're talking about the question marks of COVID and people missing the games, you also have to talk about the ramifications of the players who are playing with depleted lineups because of that.
Mm-hmm. That would have to be someone who paired up Chubb with Aaron Jones or Jonathan Taylor around the 1-2 turn, grabbed Fournette.
Elijah Mitchell.
Got Elijah
Fournette,
Mitchell. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say not because look at my team, but it's it could be a keeper league like my home team. I'm putting Cordero Patterson on. I play on sleeper, so Cordero Patterson can play wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I'm putting him at wide receiver because my running backs are Taylor, Barkley, and Najee Harris.
Oh,
so I'm
look at
kicking
Mr.
Patterson
Cool over here.
No, but that's to Funston's point. If you're in a keeper league, you made some trades, that type of stuff, you might have that situation. And in that case, I would sit Chubb. That's my point.
We can't obviously address every single person situation. It would take an extreme situation along these lines that we're describing
to
actually be sitting Nick Chubb. Maybe you would have someone in the Saturday night nightcap between the Colts and Patriots. This should be a very fun game, you guys. Colts are 2.5-point favorites against the Pats. 45 is the total in this one. I feel like the Colts can beat the Pats at their own game. Colts have the best running back in this game. They don't have quite the defense that the Patriots do, but it's not like they're miles away. They've got the more dangerous quarterback, question mark. It's just I feel like this feels appropriate. Colts being 2.5-point favorites feels very appropriate to me. And so I don't know if there's a ton of question marks in terms of who we're playing and who we're not playing. Ramondre Stevenson, Jacoby Myers. How are we looking at those Patriots guys who maybe we're questioning, Jake?
I was going to say, let's include Michael Pittman. I would consider benching Michael Pittman. This is a tough matchup as a team, and you talk about Jackson being in the conversation with Slay and Ramsey when he kind of shadows because he doesn't really show. But, I mean, we're talking about this is a concerning matchup. He has locked down everybody. I mean, there's not been one great game against them this year. And if you're talking about Carson Wentz, you said you might be, question mark, the more dangerous, but how do you beat them? You beat them on the ground.
Yeah,
so I would consider benching Michael Pittman. Again, you have to see what your other options are. Probably not starting Jacoby Myers. The only one I would go for is just who's been the boomer bust. We've talked about him a couple of times, is Kendrick Bourne. You get 20 points or you get 5. But, I'd rather do that than just say, okay, I'm going to go get my 8 points from Jacoby Myers and call it a day.
Yeah. I'm ranking Ramondre right now ahead of Damian Harris. Seems like Damian Harris is injured.
We've got that as a question, too, from Jiggles.
Getting in limited practices. I think as long as he's limited throughout the week, I think we've seen, New England's been willing to just turn to Ramondre and let him kind of lead a bit. So, Jake, where are you at on that?
I have Harris higher than Stevenson, but it's with expecting more of a full practice by Friday because he's already getting limited in. But if it's limited again on Friday, it'll probably be back to back, and probably Stevenson climbs in front of him.
And just like we've been talking about, I know we've said it a bunch on this show. Anyone who listens to us religiously is probably sick of hearing it, but it's just a step down from the Broncos guys. But but both of them register as RB2s pretty much comfortably week in and week out. And I think that's what we're looking at again in this game. And I don't know. I think this is going to be one of the more fun games of the week, and obviously a ton at stake on both sides. I'm very excited for the way this AFC ends up wrapping up with all these playoff teams, Colts and Patriots, right in the thick of that. The Bills are in the thick of that too. They are 10.5-point favorites this weekend against the Carolina Panthers. Just a total mess of things on Carolina's side. And let's talk about Chuba Hubbard for a second and Amir Abdullah. Like, I would have to be in a desperate position, Jake, if I'm going to be playing either of those guys. And I think the Bills are kind of straightforward this week.
Yeah, so repeat the question. I apologize. I'm waiting on the delivery, so I got a text message as you said that.
Hey, it's that time of year. It's that time of year. Panthers, right? I mean, it's to me, it's like a desperation situation for almost everyone on this team if you're starting any of them.
Everybody included, bad matchup included. The passing game's not as bad as it's been for facing the Bills, so maybe you can get some hope there. But the quarterback situation's an entire mess on top of it, too. So if DJ Moore is healthy 100%, you kind of roll him out there because you have to. And then at the running back situation, maybe you go Abdullah because you kind of hope that they have to pass and keep up. But, yeah, I would try to avoid most Panthers.
Yeah. Bills, obviously, we're watching the Josh Allen news. Remember Monday I said, hey, we're going to get Joe Biscaglia on the show on Tuesday. And we did talk to Joe. He said, in his estimation, we don't really know what it's going to be with Josh Allen, and things are looking good. But I asked him, like, how bad would it really have to be for Josh Allen not to play? Like, he can probably play at less than 100%. Like, how bad would it have to be for him to not play? And he said that he would think that Allen would have to be really limited moving laterally for the Bills to actually think about playing Mitch Trubisky over him this week. And so I feel like, assuming that, if Joe's right on that we're probably in a position where you're not really, you're starting Josh Allen no matter what, but I feel like you can go into it assuming he plays with the same confidence you typically do. If that ends up being the case, that if he's not really that limited how he moves laterally on that foot.
Yeah,
maybe not the complete confidence, like, you know, are we going to get 50 rushing yards? Maybe not. That's something where I think that's why I'm not like, I don't think I have him in my top 2 this week, but I still have him top 5. But normally he's one of my first 2 or 3, and I think he's probably down a couple from that right now.
Yeah. All right, guys, love the pace that we're moving at this show with. We've got a couple of ads to get to. First, making content an essential part of what we do to keep this show going. Hasn't always been a seamless creative process. That's just the case with creating content. But Canva Pro can help any creators cut down on the fails that make them operate in fits and starts. Canva Pro, a design platform that empowers you to create and share stunning content with just a few clicks. Canva Pro has endless premium fonts, photos, videos, and so much more that add personality and edge to whatever you're designing. Also makes it super easy to design together. You can share, edit, and comment in real time with your teammates, helps you stay organized, on the same page, and on top of team projects. And you can do that for just $12.99 a month. That's you and 4 teammates getting in, $12.99 a month. With Canva Pro's Content Planner, you'll save time planning, creating, and posting social media as well. Design like a pro with Canva Pro. Right now, you can get a free 45-day extended trial when you use our promo code. That's canva.me/fantasy to get that free 45-day extended trial. Again, canva.me/fantasy. Canva.me/fantasy. If you've ever wanted to make your home feel safer, there is no better time than now. Our friends at Simply Safe are giving Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast listeners 40% off their award-winning home security system. Simply Safe has everything you need to make your home safe: indoor and outdoor cameras, comprehensive sensors, all monitored around the clock by trained professionals who send help the instant that you need it. Simply Safe was named Best Home Security System of 2021 by U.S. News and World Report. There are no long-term contracts, no commitments, just a really easy way to start feeling a bit more peace of mind at home. And the biggest discounts of the year, you can get a complete home security system starting at just more than $100. Take advantage of Simply Safe's holiday sale. Get 40% off your new home security system by visiting simplysafe.com/athletic. Again, that's simplysafe.com/athletic for 40% off your entire new home security system. All right, guys, nothing says fantasy football playoffs quite like Dolphins -9.5 versus the Jets. 42.5 the total on this game. We know that the Dolphins backfield is totally a shambles right now with what's going on with their COVID situation. Michael Carter designated to return, so maybe we get him back. Funston, if we do get Michael Carter back, is he a guy who steps right back into fantasy lineups?
Well, I hesitate on that. I'm not ranking him as anything higher than a mid RB3, right around that right around that number 30 overall. I think there's, Tevin Coleman's cleared of his concussion. He was running well. I think you have to worry about that. You have to worry about Miami hasn't given up a running back touchdown in 6 games. They haven't given up more than 63 rushing yards to a running back in that span. That was Michael Carter. So, so there's some headwind there that I worry about. And we also have to hear Robert Saleh say, man, Michael Carter's looked good this week. He's ready to go, or something along those lines. So right now I'm tempering my enthusiasm. As much as I love Michael Carter, I think he's not going to land back into a fully featured situation. And maybe the matchup will be a little bit rough. Again, Zach Wilson right now is the quarterback. Michael Carter's best days came with all the backups. And so we have to also see that as well.
Yeah, Zach Wilson doesn't know how to throw to running backs, so everything Funston said, not much to add to that.
What are we doing with the Dolphins? Is this just like Jalen Waddle, Tua if you need him, and that's it? Devontae Parker?
Well, if Gaskin returns, you go with Gaskin. If Gaskin is out, and then you have to – it's too many moving parts as of Thursday, honestly, because Malcolm Brown's practicing, but is Ahmed going to be playing? Is Duke Johnson going to stay activated? They brought in Lamar Miller for a potential return. Like, we have to just wait and see who the hell's playing. But I would say if it's everybody but Gaskin, RB3, roll the dice on Malcolm Brown and hope he scores a touchdown just because of the matchup. But this is looking like a mess.
Yeah, it really is looking like a mess. I think the people who are going to be most interested in this game are people in their survivor pools who are taking the Dolphins. That's in our corner of the football universe. It's survivor pools that are going to have the most focus on Dolphins and Jets, without question. And there's probably going to be some survivor pool focus on Eagles and Washington. Also, the Eagles touchdown favorites over at BetMGM, 44 is the total on this game. Thankfully, this is a 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff, so we're going to know if Jalen Hurts is able to make his return for the Eagles. Is this as simple as Hurts starts for the Eagles, he starts for you, Jake?
No, because it comes down to, similar to Lamar Jackson, is he going to be running? That you can't take it away from his game. Lamar Jackson is not even inside my top 10 quarterbacks, if he even plays this week, which seems like he probably doesn't. I know we're not talking about that game because they brought in Josh Johnson.
Right.
But I'm saying the same thing for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts have to watch the practice. If he full practice on Friday, the reports are he sounds good, but they've been splitting reps this week already, which makes me think that Jalen Hurts he probably starts, but how healthy is he? So if he's not running even against Washington, whose defense has turned the corner, although Washington's now missing about as many players as Cleveland, so that might help a little bit. I mean, they just signed a journeyman with just played on 6 different teams off the Packers practice squad. So you would say Hurts is still in the QB1 conversation, but versus being top 5, 6, 7 like normal, he's like fringe QB1. I'd play Taysom Hill in front of him right now, as of right now.
Yeah. Got a comment for you, Funston, from Casey. Go Goddard.
Well, yeah, honestly, I'm always go Goddard. There's nothing to
I
say.
know you are.
Nothing to say other than amen to that. And I guess even more so if it's Gardner Minshew. I liked him with Jalen Hurts, but we loved him with Gardner Minshew. So yeah, more Goddard.
Is there any case to be made for a Washington pass catcher not named Terry McLaurin if Terry McLaurin can't play?
Is there a case to be made for Terry McLaurin?
Oh,
Whoa,
that's that one meme that I get, the Galaxy Brain meme right there.
It hasn't been smooth sailing. And
it's been gross.
Darius Slay. I mean, come on, this is your playoffs. It's time to think things through a little bit more, a little bit more than just automatically start your studs kind of, you got to look at.
He's not even a stud. I have
McLaurin
28.
But that's what I'm saying. Stud in quotation marks. It name brand, but it's the same with DK Metcalf. I mean, after a string of 40,
they're going to kick you out of Seattle with talk like that, Funston. My God.
Well,
taking
I'm just saying, like,
life into your own hands.
You're benching Jalen Waddle or Hunter Renfrow for DK Metcalf. You shouldn't be doing that.
Wow. Where do you have DK?
He's like 20 this week or 21, something like that.
Man, can't wait to talk about that. We've got a ways to go. But how about you, Jake? You know off the top of your head where you got DK?
Yeah, behind Waddle and Renfrow too. Should be behind them.
It's crazy. It's crazy how this, but never forget, you guys, that early round wide receivers are super, super safe. Super safe. The safest. 100%. The safest thing that's ever been created in fantasy football. Never, ever forget that. Hey, a third straight game that's going to be big in the survivor world. Cardinals, 13.5-point favorites at the Detroit Lions. 47.5 is the total on this one. And how about this, you guys? Here we are, Week 15. It is 2021. I checked. It's not like 2013 or anything. Here we are in Week 15, and AJ Green is like a slam dunk, no question about it. Get him in your lineup if you got him, sort of wide receiver. I mean, that he is, right? He is like you're not even thinking twice if he's on your team.
I have him ranked in the mid-20s.
I was going to say, yeah, he's over Terry McLaurin, and he's on the heels of DK Metcalf, so that's all you need to know.
Oh, my God. It's just
here's a receiver I would play DK over still, though.
There you go. All right, what about the backs in Arizona? James Conner hurt on what a disastrous sequence for the Cardinals. First, Cliff gets exposed with that horrible way that they ended that game against the Rams. They don't spike the ball. Kyler gets a little bit exposed for not having his head about him and knowing that we got to spike it here. And then Kyler gets a little bit banged up. Hopkins gets a little bit banged up. James Conner gets a little bit banged up in that stretch. Chase Edmonds coming back. Let's hear from both of you on this one. Funston, you take it first. How are you treating these Cardinals backs, assuming both of them do play in this game?
Well, I think this is, Edmonds probably could have came back for this game, and I think they exercise caution here, and that's probably going to be to Chase Edmonds' benefit this week because 13.5-point favorites. If this game plays out as Vegas thinks it's going to, this is a game where they can absolutely rest James Conner's ankle, and we'll see if he ends up playing. I think he will, but this could be we're going to limit you as soon as we feel it's okay to limit you, and that could work out again in Chase Edmonds' favor. So I think Chase Edmonds and Michael Carter are a pretty good comp, both coming back this week. I might lean, actually, Chase Edmonds. I have to go look at my rankings to see where I ended up. But I'm feeling like this is a great return spot for Chase Edmonds, given the situation.
Yeah, I think it's Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard before Pollard got hurt. Is that Connor will be out there if they get a lead, a little bit of rest. But if they got a lead, it's a chance that Connor got the touchdown because they'll call him in at the goal line, even if Edmonds gets him all the way down there. So I just have Connor as a high-end RB2, and I have Edmonds in play as a mid to upper RB3.
Can I interest either of you in Amon-Ra St. Brown? I tried last week. It didn't work.
Why not? Why not at this point? Oh, I will say, if Connor's out, Chase Edmonds is top 15 running back. So, as a sidebar. No, Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's volume. Hey, volume is king. I mean, I tried to preach that for Brandon Cooks, and I can't ignore it with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's inside my top 36 wide receivers.
He's kind of like
getting Hunter Renfrow. Is that what you're about to say?
I was going to say he's kind of like early season Jalen Waddle, where he was getting a ton of volume, but it was like 50
for 70
60,
yards.
Yeah, something like that. But that's kind of what it is. But it works out in PPR leagues for sure.
Yeah. Lions backfield. Hopefully we get DeAndre Swift back. But if DeAndre Swift isn't back, is this a stay away sitch?
Probably if Jamal Williams is back, which it sounds like he should be. So Jamal Williams was out last week, so I don't know. What they're going to do. Do they try to evaluate Craig Reynolds? Do they really think they're going to be part of their future?
Anybody else remember the former shortstop for the Houston Astros in the 80s, Craig Reynolds?
God. No. Me and Jake were born in the 80s. Most of it's going to miss us.
Craig Reynolds?
Most of things that were happening.
Pat Mayo made a joke on Tuesday. He's the utility shortstop for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I didn't know there was actually a baseball player that was
the OG Craig Reynolds for sure. Houston shortstop.
There we go.
No hitting.
I remember Craig Graybeck.
Craig Graybeck.
But that was more of like an early to mid 90s, and that was right in my backyard in Chicago. That was but no Craig Reynolds for me. But either way, no Craig Reynolds for fantasy football people either. And hopefully the Cardinals just take care of business, being someone who is very strongly on them in a survivor pool. How about Cowboys and Giants? I didn't even do this on purpose, but 4 straight very popular survivor games this week. Cowboys minus 10.5 at the New York Giants. We talked about this a little bit back on Monday's show, but Zeke and Pollard, let's start with them. Assuming both of these guys are able to suit up this week, which it looks like they will be able to, how are we treating those guys, Jake?
What kind of what I just talked about with the Connor situation is you're still playing Zeke as a fringy RB1. Pollard, if he's back, you assume he's 100%. And we'll have to see reports, but still in that fringy RB2-3 conversation because, it goes down the road of we saw last week. They got to the third quarter and they were up early and Zeke basically stood on the sideline until the game got close again and then kind of came back in. So you hope if they get up, which they should on the Giants, you hope that Zeke's part of the scoring. But if he's not, I mean, you can see Zeke coming out of this game with 7-8 points. So you have to understand there's definitely more risk with him. And I think there's risk with Pollard too, even coming back. So it's not as slam dunk as it normally would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zeke came out and said he's getting healthy again. And one thing I will say is, as little as we saw of him last week, like he was running hard. I actually thought he looked better than he had in previous weeks. And so, if he can get more volume, I think it's okay. I'm worried about a guy playing a guy that has a torn plantar fascia who says, I just need to tear it all the way through and it'll feel better.
Like, it does make it better.
I know it does, painful. But man, is this like like tonsils? Like is it like an unnecessary part of the human anatomy? Like
does he get to eat a ton of popsicles if he tears it all the way through? Because that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, is it an appendix? I mean, come on. It feels like the plantar fascia is kind of important. So I have a little bit of hesitancy on Tony Pollard.
Yeah, should be a good rebound spot for Dak Prescott, as we talked about on Monday. Just this is as get right of a get right spot as a player could have.
Yeah, I thought that last week too. So
we'll run it back. We'll run it back here. Are we running any Giants out there other than Saquon, Jake?
No. That's it. No.
That's it.
No. Move on.
Yeah.
The end.
Good.
No.
Good. No, I like that. Simple is great. Brevity is the what is it? Brevity is the soul of wit. Brevity is wit of the soul. I can't. Shakespeare, it's not right there. It's not right there. It's definitely not the spice of life. It's one or the other of what I just said, and I wish I had it right there at the tip of my brain. I do not, however, because there's a lot of football and gambling stuff cluttering it up. How about Masterclass, you guys? You could probably learn quite a bit about Shakespeare over there, but I know you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn how to cook from Gordon Ramsay, improve your shooting and ball handling with Steph Curry, or learn about one of my favorite things, presidential and U.S. history, from Doris Kearns Goodwin, with more than 100 classes from a range of world-class instructors. That thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. I have taken the Doris Kearns Goodwin class. If you've been watching us for a while, I've been saying that. I'm not just lying. I'm not just lying about it. Here you go. Bully Pulpit by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It is a great book, and I loved her class on Masterclass. And if that's not your thing, it doesn't really matter, because there are so many different instructors on Masterclass that surely your thing is available there. And it's just really cool to learn from these smart, expert, engaged people about how they do what they do. Just very fun, very cool, and something you should absolutely check out this holiday. Give one annual membership and get one for free. Go to masterclass.com/firstdown today. That's masterclass.com/firstdown. Terms apply. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You choose the amount of monthly data that's right for you. Stop paying for data that you never use. You get to keep your phone, keep your number. Just all that changes is the plan and, of course, the price of that plan. For a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months for free by going to mintmobile.com/fantasy. That's mintmobile.com/fantasy. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month and get 3 months free. mintmobile.com/fantasy. Titans and Steelers, you guys. Next game I want to talk about. Titans are 2-point favorites in this game. 41.5 is the total. Can either of you jump in if you can? Can either of you figure out why the Titans are 2-point favorites in this game? Because I cannot, with what we've seen from this offense without Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown.
No, I actually think that, typically this seems like a straight up and even game. And if anybody should be 2-point favorites, it would be the home team, because they usually, as they say, the home game, the home team's worth 2 to 3 points. So I don't get it. I mean, you look at the Titans in the last 3 games, I think they've scored 4 touchdowns.
Their offense looked bad against Jacksonville last week.
Yeah, their offense looked bad, and luckily they were playing Jacksonville. Pittsburgh's actually showing some signs of life where it could hurt Tennessee the most, which is the passing game. I mean, Tennessee's been horrible against the pass. Roethlisberger's been, looking better, and they got Najee Harris in the backfield. Yeah, I think it should be Pittsburgh -2, but some Vegas, seems to think something's up. So I don't know. Yeah.
Jake, Julio Jones,
Derrick Henry coming back.
Yeah, right. Like I can't figure this one out, and usually that scares me into thinking, wanting to back the team that I can't figure out why they are the favorite. But I don't know. I think this just feels all wrong to me with the way that these two teams have played over the last month or so. So I like the Steelers quite a bit. What about Julio Jones? We're talking about all those receivers who are stacked on one another. Julio, I imagine, is behind them, but how far behind them, Jake?
Low end wide receiver 3 conversation. It's one of the you can make the argument like somebody needs to catch the ball. Have him at 32. It's not a must start. But the biggest thing is, this offense doesn't throw it a ton. So even if somebody does have to catch the ball, how many attempts for Tannehill? 22 or something like that. So you hope that this matchup kind of pushes Tannehill to have to pass more if they really want to try to keep in the playoff race and get Henry back for the playoffs and all that type of stuff. So I think Julio's in play, but he's definitely a low floor, high ceiling play at this point of his career.
Yeah, I had him ranked about 32 last week, and that's about where I have him this week. And I think part of it is, it's like, okay, last week was sort of like a get through the game, get your legs back. And I just watching the game and the few times they did throw to him, he looked okay, and it looked fine. So I feel like we're going to see a step in the right direction this week, and maybe he will deliver where I had him ranked last week and where I have him ranked this week and where Jake has him ranked.
Before we get to our next game, let's tackle a question here from Brandon. Darrell Williams or Devontae Parker, to go back to something we were talking about a little earlier. What do you got on this one, Jake?
This comes down to what do you need here? The safe points is Darrell Williams. If you need the ceiling, is Devontae Parker. And the ceiling for Devontae Parker is not even necessarily that great in this game. And with the matchup against the Giants, Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, matchup-wise, should do more than Devontae Parker does. So, that's as simple as you can get. Plus, as I mentioned before, this is one of those situations where Darrell Williams, you definitely get the points. With what's going on with Devontae Parker, I mean, not the Giants versus the Jets, is that they can run all over him. Devontae Parker could just be 4 targets, because they don't need him. And so that's what it comes down to.
All right, next game up on the list, guys. It's going to be one that just got a little bit of a shot in the arm after the Urban Meyer finally getting canned. Jaguars 3.5-point favorites against the Texans, 39.5 the total on this game. I mean, now that they got that albatross.
That is official news. That is, I just double checked. That's actually official. Jalen Waddle's on COVID now too.
Oh my God.
So
all right. So Devontae Parker.
Devontae Parker.
Yeah. After all that.
Also official news is that Urban Meyer is no longer embarrassing himself on at least on like an NFL stage. I'm sure he'll find other ways to embarrass himself, but he's not doing it as the NFL head coach anymore after getting canned by the Jaguars. Finally, earlier, at like midnight Eastern time. Shouldn't the Jaguars now be favored by like 8.5 points? Like, what if the Jaguars come out and just put up like 40? Lawrence throws for 3 touchdowns. No more concerns for James Robinson, right? I mean, shouldn't we think that James Robinson's back?
Yeah, and Lawrence's only multi-touchdown game was a 3-touchdown game in Week 1 against the Texans. So, this should be free James Robinson time, unless Darrell Bevel was, part of the headwind.
The invisible hand benching James Robinson.
I like to think now. I mean, Darrell Bevel, he was in Seattle. He was fairly level-headed, and in retrospect, a lot of people are pining for Darrell Bevel as an offensive coordinator in Seattle. But I feel better about James Robinson for sure.
Yeah. I say that's the only one because, to be honest about it, is he's still part of this coaching organization here. It's not that the Urban Meyer was legitimately out there purposely calling bad plays and playing defense himself. So, you would say James Robinson.
There was a little bit of Costanza flair to Urban Meyer over these last couple of weeks.
I mean, look, there's a lot of things that went on with him. Yes, we all think it's going to be better, but again, it's not. Pretty honest, like everybody out there is making it the fact like he was playing with 10 players and now all of a sudden they get to play with 11. Like that, let's not overreact too much. Just not. I wouldn't put Trevor Lawrence like he's not all of a sudden going to be a top 12 quarterback. Relax a little bit.
I don't think anyone's doing that. We're just having fun with a guy finally getting his comeuppance.
Right. This is we'll be able to see how much exactly spirits being lifted impacts a game.
Yeah, that's true because we hear that sometimes and we're never actually sure. So, but this time we know for sure like those dudes are partying in practice today. They are feeling good.
Today, yes.
There is
Lambo got
no question about that. Yeah, right. Bring Lambo. Lambo's gonna kick 7 field goals in this game. Let's do it. Let's just get them all back. That would just be awesome. And still the most meaningless game of the year though. Between these two terrible football teams. How about the Packers and the Ravens, you guys? This game in Baltimore, but the Packers are favored by 5.5. And obviously we know that both the 5.5 point favorite and the fact that this one is just 43.5 on the total has a whole lot to do with Lamar Jackson. This is a late kick. So how long do you wait, or what do you have to have available to you as a backup, Funston, to wait on Lamar Jackson if we don't have word on this until Sunday?
I don't know that Tyler Huntley is the worst backup option. Like, I have him ranked I would rank him in my top 20, kind of a Justin Fields-ish kind of play where he's sort of he did a middle-class version of Lamar Jackson in replacing him last week. So, like, you could go that route. I have a team where I am doing that, where I'm going that route. And if it gets down to it, I will take a double check on the waiver wire to make sure I don't like somebody else a little better. But at least I'm covered in the event that Lamar Jackson sits. And, I'm looking at Tyler Huntley as like 18 to 20 on the quarterback range. And maybe I'd play a Garoppolo. Maybe I'd play a Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger maybe, but then after that, if I'm getting into the Carson Wentz's against New England and some of those other guys and the Taylor Heineke's who looked so bad last week, like, I'm definitely going to go Tyler Huntley.
Jake, where are you at on this?
I mean, I would just play even Tua without Waddle. I'd still play him and Burrow and Garoppolo and Wilson and Cousins. Tannehill, that's probably where I about stop. And similar to what Funston said, is wait, because that's right around where I have Justin Fields, and I think that's a good pair. To be honest, though, if you're going for floor, Mac Jones on Saturday, I would just play Mac Jones. If I'm going for floor, that really depends on what you want for your team.
Yeah, for sure. I think that makes some sense. And I mean, the floor's been there for Mac Jones, certainly. And again, as we talked about earlier, that could be, a pretty competitive game, should be a competitive game between those two teams. This line in total gives the Packers an implied total of 24.5 points. Am I crazy for thinking that feels a little low for the way this team's playing and the fact that the Baltimore defense is, they're not a pushover, but they're not exactly,
side, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like that 24.5 feels a little light for me on the Packers. Not that it changes. I mean, you're Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Devontae, Dylan. The total's not going to change what you do with those guys, but this just feels, I don't know, it feels a little light, and I think maybe there's an argument to be made for MVS as a deep shot wide receiver 3 sort of guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel 30 points out of Green Bay, though, so I don't know how. It's maybe a little light, but I don't know if I mean, I could see him scoring like a 27. This could be like a 27-20 kind of a game, but I don't know if it goes crazy.
All right, let's get to do another big one in the AFC with the wild card race for all these teams. Broncos and Bengals. Broncos 2.5-point favorites. You guys, I love the Bengals in this spot too, and I love the Bengals last week. That ultimately didn't work out, although they came back and showed pretty well ultimately in that game. But I like them in this spot. Are we just totally out on all Broncos pass catchers, Jake?
Yeah, should have been for quite a while. I mean, Judy would be the only one I would touch, and he's low end wide receiver 3, high end wide receiver 4 at this point. And it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of you shouldn't have been doing Cortland Sutton, shouldn't have been playing around with Manuel Sanders too, even before his injury. Like, people just, I said it on this show last week. The last time they were both relevant was week 6, and now Sanders is hurt. But you might as well erase Sutton from your mind. Yeah, no, Tim Patrick hasn't been anything in the longest time either.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's just an ugly situation for those pass catchers, which is kind of crazy that they're still like having as much success as they are. And as we've been talking about on this show a bunch, it's all about what those running backs are doing for them in this one. The total on this one also a little bit of a head scratcher for me at 44. Funston, you were the big Bengals guy. Was that last week that you were way higher than average on all the Bengals, or was that a couple weeks ago? Can't remember. It ultimately came through last week.
Everything's a blur.
Everything's a blur when you get to week 15.
I was higher on Chase last week. That worked out.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I was appreciably higher on everybody else.
And so, I mean, Burrow answered the bell pretty well with that finger injury, just fine. Obviously, a slow start for him, but then ultimately 350 and 2 touchdowns in that loss to the 49ers. Firing him up as QB1 this week?
I think he's where he's been so many weeks is right on that bubble. He's like 12-13 kind of play for me. So I can see where people might have, you got Taysom Hill. I'm playing Taysom Hill. There's
over
there are a few quarterbacks out there where I would probably lean the other direction, but most people drafted Joe Burrow as their starting quarterback, and with only a few exceptions, I'm probably playing Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I think that's probably going to be the case for most Joe Burrow managers as well. We've got 4 more games to talk about. We have one more ad to deliver to you. Bomba's mission, very simple. Make the most comfortable clothes ever and match every item sold with an equal item donated. This holiday, when you gift Bombas to someone on your list, you're also giving them to someone in need. It is a total give. Bombas designed their socks, shirts, and underwear to be the clothes you can't wait to put on every day. Everything they make is soft, seamless, tagless, and has a luxuriously cozy feel. They're made from super soft materials like merino wool, Pima cotton, and even cashmere, which makes them the perfect cozy winter layers. You've heard me talk about how my 8-month-old daughter loves her Bombas socks, the only socks that her mom and I can keep on her. We actually have some Bombas just a couple of rooms over for gifts, not for her, but for other family members. They do make a great gift, not only because of how comfortable they are, but of course, because of the mission that Bombas has as well. Socks, underwear, and t-shirts, the 3 most requested clothing items at homeless shelters in that order. That's why Bombas donates 1 for every item that you buy. Go to bombas.com/AFFP, as in Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast, and get 20% off any purchase during the big holiday sale. That's BOMBAS.com/AFFP for 20% off. Bombas.com/AFFP. Okay, my friends, 4 more games to talk about in Week 15. Obviously, since we're going in chronological order, these are all late games. 2 that are in the 4:25 Eastern window, then the primetime games. 49ers and Falcons. First one up, 49ers, 9.5-point favorites. 46 is the total. Eli Mitchell still not really practicing for the 49ers. How long are you willing to wait on this, Jake, or what would you have to have available or not available, as the case may be, to want to wait on Mitchell if we are waiting until game time on this one?
I mean, you just need ceiling, and your next option is obviously if you have Jeff Wilson, who's still not on his level, but because Deebo Samuel turned into a running back when Eli Mitchell's
turns into
out.
Cordell Patterson.
Seriously.
Yeah, basically, that's the same comparison that I was making yesterday, too, on another show. But, you know, you look at these games, I don't know that you have a lot. I mean, if you had Rashad Penny, but you might want to just start Rashad Penny, maybe A.J. Dillon in a split. But there's not a whole lot that you can really risk waiting for where, you know, outside of it being a running back, you're probably already starting. So
yeah.
I would say it kind of comes down to your roster position. But, hopefully we just get some clarity on Saturday like we have for a lot of these teams.
We have been getting a lot of that Saturday clarity, which is nice, and hopefully we get that here. On another note, Funston, are the 49ers back to what we thought they were going to be at the start of the season, or at least what we thought they could be at the start of the season, with all these different guys doing, you know, basically operating at like 90% of what they can do?
Yeah, well, Deebo Samuel, week in and week out, never a wrong answer, and George Kittle's been unleashed in the last 2 weeks like crazy. I mean, you're feeling awesome if you're sitting on Kittle right now, and then Brandon Ayuk has been getting consistency, finding the end zone, doing enough that you can think about him in the wide receiver 3, you know, kind of way. So yeah, I think they are back. It'll be interesting to see what happens if Elijah Mitchell is back this week and Deebo Samuel's pretty much full wide receiver. Like, you know, then it becomes a little bit more of a, is Ayuk going to be safe? But I think it's still going to be mostly okay. I would roll him out there. I would keep him as a wide receiver 3.
I would think so too. I mean, it feels as though, I mean, there's been games where Deebo's made plenty of an impact as a runner with Eli Mitchell healthy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. There could still be the 6 to 8 carries, and maybe Deebo's limited in the passing game a little bit, and he gets you 3 or 4 catches, but it's like 44 yards and a touchdown anyways, you know, on top of that.
And
so
40 more yards on the ground too. So I think we're looking at pretty much firing up all your 49ers with the possible exception of Garoppolo, except as we talked about earlier this week, he's a fine replacement for Lamar Jackson. If that ends up being the case, if somehow Josh Allen doesn't end up going, although again, that looks very likely that Josh Allen's going to play, but if somehow he doesn't, a fine replacement for him as well. On the other side of this, Jiggles anticipating exactly where I'm going. Gage is a solid wide receiver 3. Is there anyone you want to play on this Falcons side other than Cordell Patterson for sure, and most likely Kyle Pitts managers are forced into playing him? Anyone else you want, Jake?
I mean, I have Russell Gage as a wide receiver 3, so you can certainly play him. And it's just another volume situation. If you're playing Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're playing Russell Gage. It's the same. You're playing Jacoby Myers. They're all basically the same guys, volume. And then you hope that they get a touchdown. But most weeks they don't.
Yep. Let's get to our next game here. The last game in that late window is Rams and Seahawks. Rams 4.5-point favorites, 45 the total. We know that the Rams are dealing with a COVID outbreak of their own, potentially no Odell Beckham in this game. We hopefully get Darrell Henderson back for this one, but we want to talk about the running back on the other side of this one, and we're pretty much all on the same page that Rashad Penny is someone who you're basically going to want to play no matter what. We talked about that a lot on Monday. So let's look at a question that we got from Alexander Funston. Rashad Penny or Myles Gaskin if Gaskin ends up clearing protocol and getting the start?
I would go Myles Gaskin. It's pretty close. I have them ranked as if Myles Gaskin's going to play, and I have Gaskin, I think, like 2 spots. They're both in the mid-20s for me. I think Gaskin I have as a very back-end RB2, and Rashad Penny is like the very high-end RB3. It's just about the matchup. The matchup is just so much better. The Rams' defensive front has been absolutely dominating, the Seahawks in the Aaron Donald era. Like, it's just like – the one team that the Seahawks have had no answer for really has been the Rams in terms of Aaron Donald and that defense and stuff. So it can wreak havoc on the offense across the board.
Cardinals couldn't run the ball at all on them last week. James Conner scored 2 touchdowns on the ground, but he did all of his yardage damage as a receiver. They could not move the ball at all on the ground against the Rams. Jake, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, I have them back-to-back. So the same situation.
With Gaskin ahead?
No, I actually have Penny one spot in front of him, but it's, I also have Malcolm Brown and Savon Huckman in the ranks because with how much time that they had, things that clear up, and it is a great matchup, but, there's three options there. Gaskin should be the lead. As you just mentioned, this Penny can be used in the passing game. It's not like he's not good in the passing game.
No, for sure.
And really what it comes down to is if you told me 70% of the work for Penny versus 55 for Gaskin, that's why he barely edges him out in the worst matchup. But if you want to go either way, this is, if you feel
it's a very good
go
question.
right ahead.
Yeah. It's right down the middle.
Any surprises for the Rams? Or are we obviously they have the COVID situation that's going on, but is there anything we're waiting on with respect to this team?
The Darrell Henderson situation.
If you don't, but he has to be activated, right? He has to be activated on Saturday.
Say we're waiting. Yeah.
But I'm saying, but we're gonna, as you're setting your lineup on Sunday morning, is there anything we're waiting on? We are literally waiting on it right now as we're sitting here on Thursday morning. But
one thing I'll say though is if Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel are both active and we expect them to have somewhat of a platoon, it might not be as good of a matchup as you think. Seattle's number 2 in points allowed to running backs, but they are by far and away the worst in yards in receiving production by the running back, and the Rams are last in RB receptions and RB receiving yards. So what the Rams do hasn't been how Seahawks have been giving up points to running backs. They've actually given up just 3.7 yards per carry to the running back position. They've done a good job of kind of limiting the ground game. So I'm not loving the Rams running backs this week if it's going to be both of those guys out there.
All right, let's get to the primetime games, you guys. Sunday night is Buccaneers and Saints. Buccaneers comfortable favorites, as they should be. 10.5, 46.5 is the total. Who's the highest scoring quarterback in this game? Is it Tom Brady, or is Taysom going to do another run for 102 and throw for 150 and 1 and 2 picks? Because the picks are coming.
I feel like the likelihood of Brady getting 4 touchdown passes in this game is pretty good. So I don't know. What
about the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore history?
Well, then Rob Gronkowski and Chris Godwin, and throw it to Leonard Fournette too. And there's more than one ways to skin this cat here.
Yes, absolutely, there are for sure. How serious? You're starting Mike Evans, but how seriously do you take that, Jake? This is like the batter versus pitcher argument in baseball.
It's exactly the same thing I said to Jeff yesterday. I said
really?
For anybody that does exact. I said for anybody that plays fantasy baseball, I said this is batter versus pitcher. I have Mike Evans. Wide receiver 17.
Yeah.
He's lowest he's ever going to be. Guess what? You're still playing Mike Evans.
Of course.
And you just hope that if you average it out somewhere between 4 and 6 targets, somewhere between 2, 3, 4 receptions, you just hope that one of them goes for a touchdown. So he is touchdown reliant in this game, though, against Lattimore and the Saints.
Doesn't he really have a decent amount of touchdowns against Lattimore, even though the yardage is terrible?
That's what I'm saying. He's touchdown reliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Am I allowed to still be in the fantasy baseball world and say that I it gets to a point where I do buy batter versus pitcher.
I do. It's usually after about 30 plate appearances.
Yeah, I was
Starts
the
to
exact
have
same
some
thing.
semblance.
And listen, I was a pretty decent high school baseball player. I still remember to this day, I graduated from high school in 2003, and I still remember to this day the names of pitchers who I had very good success against. You cannot tell me that Major League Baseball hitters and pitchers do not know, like, oh, I own this guy, or oh, this guy owns me. There is no way, and you can't convince me that doesn't have something. I'm not saying that it automatically means you're going 4 for 4 against a dude, but you can't tell me that it's if it's in your mind a little bit that there's not something at play there.
I had the same deal. Shout out to Jeff Lyle. That guy owned me. I'll give it to him. Wasn't the hardest
Jeff
throwing
Lyle.
guy, but he had the best junk early in a career, in my baseball career. So, yeah. Throw a wiffle ball.
Yeah, right. So Funston and I can remember this decades later. Then I feel like Major League Baseball players, like batter versus pitcher isn't all hooey. There's something to it for sure. Last game of the day, this sort of is hooey that the Bears are getting yet another primetime matchup. This is Vikings at Bears in Chicago. 3.5 is the spread. Vikings are favored 44.5 the total on this one. We've talked KJ Osborne to death. I think we're all on the same page here that you can play him without Adam Thielen. What about the quarterbacks in this game? I think there actually is some intrigue on both sides. Kirk Cousins, basically know what to expect out of him. But as you've made the point, Jake, like Kirk Cousins does great in bad matchups, does poorly in good matchups. You never know exactly what's going to be the case. And then Justin Fields, 9 for 74 on the ground last week. That obviously puts him on the fantasy radar. So interested to know from both you guys, and you can go first here, Jake. Where do you have these two quarterbacks ranked? Who are you playing them over this week?
I have Kirk Cousins 14 in the conversation with Russ and Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's kind of real. Maybe he climbs in their spot or two once we get more news on situations. But in that, just the top end of the QB2 range. And then Justin Fields, I have not too far behind him. He's 17. And it really comes down to, I made the same argument with like the Taysom Hill, but it's a lesser degree with Justin Fields. But the reason we like Taysom Hill and the reason like nobody ever has a problem when healthy, when Jalen Hurts is inside of our top 5 or 6 quarterbacks, nobody bats an eye. But when you put Taysom Hill there, everybody's like, oh my God, what are you doing? But they're the same quarterback. They're the same. We want 80 rushing yards and you can't pass worth a lick. But as long as you get us 180 yards and maybe 1 touchdown, it's a top 5 day. Justin Fields is in the same conversation, except his rushing is more like 40, 50 usually. So that's why he's not quite on their level. And if I need a ceiling play, I could see going Justin Fields over a Kirk Cousins for ceiling, pure ceiling.
Nothing really to add other than I'm 13 on Cousins and 17 on Fields, so I'm almost exactly the same as Jake. I'm only 1 spot higher on Cousins, but yeah, I mean you can. I get the case of if you just are playing for the Hail Mary, you go with Justin Fields.
Yeah, and definitely is it'll be fun. I think he's going to be a fun guy to watch down the stretch here with the shackles coming off a little bit, and with the knowledge too that we're getting an Urban Meyer exercising of demons soon enough in Chicago. Maybe that frees things up a little bit for Justin Fields. Really quick before we wrap up this episode, because we're all done with the games, you guys both doing Christmas song rankings in the next couple of weeks?
I mean, I've done it for the past 3 years. People are probably tired of mine. I have to think.
No. But are you? Does that mean you're not doing it?
I'm recycling my Christmas songs. Everybody's seen them.
Well, recycled content at the end of the year is what the best people do, Jake.
Mine have been out for a week, Beller. Thanks for noticing.
Okay.
They are live on the site, and if you go there, you can even I even put a Spotify link. You can go.
No way.
And like all the songs are laid out there on Spotify. And yeah,
where's "Merry Christmas Baby" by Otis Redding?
It is "Merry Christmas Baby" on. I think it's in there. It's like right in the middle, maybe 30s, 40s, somewhere in there. So.
All right, I'm gonna check that out, Jake. If you don't do it, I'm going to check out yours from last year, and we're going to get that in the show next week because who doesn't love a good Christmas song list? We're definitely going to get that in because we have to. It's the most wonderful time of the year, right, guys? The song says it.
It's just a Mariah Carey Christmas album for Jake.
There's only 2 songs by her there.
Norah Jones has a great new Christmas album out. Nando and I were actually texting about it a couple of weeks ago. So check that one out also. And thank you for checking us out on the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. For Funston, for Jake, I am Michael Beller. We're back with you next week. Hopefully you're with us because that means you're advancing onto your fantasy football semifinals. Good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.